Hey, I'm Alex Jacobsen. This is my first lecture since COVID, so I'm not sure how to go about it. So if this is all weird and awkward, that's where I'm at, just so y'all know. Who here is part of the tech program? Raise your hand. Cool. Who's here just cause? No one? You? Cool. What else? Who here is like an audio engineer or more like field recording? That's why you want to do more techie stuff? Got like a handful? Cool. And who's here just for the art? Like pure sound art? Nice. Okay, cool. So these are whooping cranes. They come up to central Nebraska once a year around this time. Last week, I went over to visit them with Veronica, who is a resident at the Bemis Center. Everyone knows where the Bemis is? It's over central. They have a lot of really cool programs. They do is this on? Yes, perfect. They do a nice internship program, and I don't know if it's announced yet. I don't know what they're doing. Claire Rose is playing on April 11th. Like one of my favorite artists of all time, so definitely check her out. Why am I bringing this up? If there's an opportunity to apply for an internship like this, do it. I started doing this in 2017. I graduated at UNK, and my college experience was not good, to say the least. I was a percussionist. I did guitar. Does anyone here ever heard the term that like electronic music isn't music? Or like, yeah, got a couple in the back. Who else? What else do we hear about like what is or isn't music? Are hand raised? Do you got some? No? Okay. Who wants to talk to the cranes? Speak up. Do we hear that it's like easy listening? No? Yes? Talk to me. I just see a bunch of faces staring at me. It's making me nervous. You all got? Yeah, there you go. What else?
Well, I mean, a lot of people, I feel like my parents are usually like, well, orchestral music, this is real music. Electronic music is not really. They definitely wouldn't consider this music.
Why don't they consider it music?
I think it's not in their eyes like traditional.
Mm-hmm. What about that? Is it the sounds themselves?
Maybe they just don't hear like specific melodies that they're looking for. They don't understand how this fits into like harmonies and chords that are happening.
Sure. Harmonies, chords, that's part of it too. What about how we play electronic music? That's part of it, yeah?
I've definitely heard it's just some guy with a computer.
Yeah. Even there's a meme of Deadmau5, if you know Deadmau5. He's like, at the end of the day, we're all hitting play, right? To what extent we are or not, you could argue that. I think there's some artists who do a really good job, and there's some artists who just hit play and make $1,000, and that's perfectly okay for them. Where to go from here? Did I ever say I was a Bemis intern in 2019? Yeah? I helped out Mark Villanova, who was the first sound art resident over there, so I got very lucky. He let me go to Barcelona and do a residency there for 2 weeks. And then I spent a month just recording Madrid, Spain, all of that stuff. At the same time, I was moving away from deep listening. Everyone knows who this is, right? Here, go ahead and pass that. That's Paulino Oliveros. If you want to be a serious listener, a sound practitioner, get out of the patriarchal headscape of listening. That's a good start. More advanced would be Salome. This is Political Possibilities of Sound, but the quote on the screen, if I can zoom that in, this is from her Listening to Noise and Silence book. It's a little philosophy dense, but worth the read, I think. Where was I? Oh, so around the time I was doing an internship, I was getting really into somatic vibrations, so seeing, water, reflections, substrates. If you know Marianne Armache, big fan of Marianne. And I just started getting really into the vibrations, making it weird. And what I eventually came to is taking transducer microphones, attaching them to glass, and then having what is wine in this photo vibrate. It's a little hazy, but after, if you want to come up, I can show you a better quality image. And the whole vibe of this was to kind of stop hearing sound and experience sound in different ways, more on a physical, more of a tactile level, more up my body within the space. You guys see that okay? No? It's fine. I can see it fine on my screen. So. Okay. These are all from the gallery space in Spain.
I can hit the lights, just a heads up.
That's fine. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Perfect. Still not the best, but. And something specific to the wine. So, right, this is like, we're not hearing it now, but it's loud. It's like, you can't think, it's so fucking loud. And there's a subwoofer, and that's so loud, it's like rattling your body, like it's 50 hertz just right in the chest area. And then all these vibrations, what's happening is the wine is oxidizing. And as it oxidizes, it releases a scent, right? Kind of like an intoxicating odor. I'm gonna turn off those birds too. So as the wine is aerating, as they call it, you start smelling, and so it kind of takes a new sensorium. Make sense? Any questions? Sorry, I don't like just like rambling. You guys gotta talk to me. I don't mind sitting in silence forever either, so if you don't talk, we'll just do a bunch of deep listening meditations and...
When you first made the altar and decided to use wine, were you aware of the oxidization?
No, that was a happy accident.
That's super interesting to hear.
Thank you. It was originally trying to go for like a blood effect and do, like kind of those infinite fountains, and that was the initial idea. I realized that wine actually has a lot of sugar in it, so when you put it through that machine, some of the sugar starts to get all sticky, and something else I noticed, and it's not so much in this piece. I'll pull up a different one if I can find my hard drive. Where was I going with this? We're going to jump ahead. So this was sort of, think of this as sort of the little nugget, my little seedling of ideas. Move ahead to last year, and I'm going to warn, there's bodies, there's going to be boobs, so we're all adults. Thank you. But it came into what became this whole collaborative exhibition, where I used a subwoofer, I put some latex, liquid latex on it, and then had it sort of bump. And over time, the wine evaporated, it fell off the floor, and so you're continually having to refill the wine. So there was a form of action of like re-engaging with the work, re-engaging with what we were trying to go for, which was a big body, and really remove the visual centrism. I see your body and there's a boundary there instantly. This was really trying to connect everybody together in the space. It's creepy. I'm not I'm a very doom and gloom guy. I'm not really like a happy-go-lucky person. Let's turn this up a bit. stop it right here. Over here is that subwoofer I was talking about earlier. So it got really hard to like mount it, and I realized like fishing line, you can't hang it. People get all weird when you have like liquids like, suspended in space. So can't do that in Nebraska, unfortunately. So I settled for a subwoofer, 20-inch subwoofer that I got with some grant money, and then that became, you know, the narrow down. The one thing I don't like about this, well, I fixed it with the liquid latex, but the cool thing about the glass is that it seems like a soft surface, but it's really got all these like nice curves and indents. And when you activate it, those vibrations, these resonate in those little pockets, right? So you might have like 40 hertz here, but then 100 hertz or 103 hertz is activated somewhere over here. And there's a nice visualization of where the pitches are in space. If there's any fans of Varese, that's definitely an influence of mine. And then up top, is anyone familiar with autoacoustics? Who's here heard of autoacoustics? Can you hear me? No, sorry. Who's here heard of autoacoustics? Or what's the acronym, Seth? Is it OOTAs? OTEs?
Maybe.
The little, have you ever like had a car drive by you and you hear your ear sort of like perk up or move, or there's some like, that's autoacoustic emissions. Marianne Armache was a big person in that. And what it does, or what you can do, is essentially create like a third tone inside the mind. And it's just all optical illusions and how we perceive space. Did anyone feel any vibrations in their seat listening to this? Yeah? No? Maybe? You guys are really quiet over here. I wish I could. I'm stuck with my laptop. That's the problem. I can't walk over to you guys. Anywho. Any questions with that? Any comments, concerns, issues?
So it seemed like there was quite a lot of things in the space. Were
Yes.
you responsible for every aspect that we could see in the video?
I should have pulled it up again. Do you have questions on certain parts, or?
Yeah, maybe just walk us through all the different things that we see.
Okay. Well, we'll get to this guy in a second. This was a collaborative installation, Proxy Flash, which is sort of this creative revolving troupe I'm trying to start. This was last year's first showcase, and I had 4 different artists of different materials come together and kind of experience work with my ideas that I'm working on. Matthew Strasburger is the one who does the visuals. So this video was all his. He did the documentation for it, which is why it looks kind of the way it does. It's like a nice like little advertisement. And as an aside for the creative people, this is something where you might get away with showing like to a resume or a CV or portfolio thing. It is a little artsy, like, you know, designed. And depending on what you're trying to do and what residencies you're trying to do, they might not like this. They might prefer something like plain and boring, like when you see like a picture in a picture frame and it's just on a white gallery wall. Sound art is a little weird in gallery spaces still, which is why I really like it. Aspen Monet LeBoy, sorry. They did all the glass stuff, so there's little flickering things here and there, the mirrors throughout. I don't know if you saw this, but there's a nice little mylar reflection, more of that. The only light source in the space was Matthew's projection. What else? Margot Johnson was the one, I don't know if you guys noticed the tongue. She did this, the tongues, the cigarettes. What else we got? I think that covers it.
Could I ask a question?
Okay.
I was curious, like, I thought that was really effective when the projection of their hand was like on the wall. Like, was that like choreographed so it would appear at a specific time to project it, or was it like triggered by a sound or a movement?
Was it the dancer who?
Yeah, where like when
Yeah.
she's reaching behind and then you saw her hand doing it. I thought that was really like I don't know, that was like really effective.
That was definitely a Matthew Strasburger editing there. What we ended up doing, so Gail Rocks, who I've also collaborated with in the past, she is a fantastic dancer. Oh yeah, I forgot about this guy. We'll talk about that in a minute. We just like let her in the space and just let her do her work. And if you're familiar with John Zorn or New York downtown jazz, it's all about like letting the musicians cook. And as a composer, when I'm letting people into the space, my emphasis is like letting them do what they do best, right? There's plenty of other people doing like, I want this, this, and this at this time. I'm more of like, we know each other, you do your thing, and then we're gonna fix it in post.
Yeah, that was beautiful, that was just so
I'll let Gail know you said that. Yeah. Going back to this, it's hard to see, but what Gail's holding is what I kind of affectionately called earworms. And I brought some, I think they're in the other room. All right. And I didn't bring an amp, so bear with me, but if you look, I'll show you guys. There's another transducer? And they're all called transducers. They sell this as a bone conductor, but it's the same thing. It's just a T-bar. So this little thing is like vibrating, and then the rest of this is connected. And I kind of just wanted, again, fleshy, bony. I'll give this to you and you can pass it around. Yeah. I like the surgical tubing, so I got some grant money to do the surgical tubing. And it's in stereo, so typically I have an amplifier and I make people do this and walk around the space. And you hear things inside your head. It activates the, what's this called? The skull, the bones, right? Sorry, I'm just dropping a blank right now. Normally, how do we listen? What do we listen with? Good. But if we want to circumvent that system, we can just attach something to our bones. Bones vibrate, it vibrates our membrane, and then it goes into our brain, right? That was the idea of it. I don't have a recording. Actually, I do. I'm not going to listen to it, but what I had in this exhibit specifically was a bunch of chewing or a bunch of repetitive sounds. I have misophonia. Anyone know what misophonia is? You got one slight nod, a little. Basically, it's like a strong irritation of sounds or certain sounds. Usually, it's sounds that are very familiar to you or often coming from a parent. It's usually chewing. It's usually, like if I did this, or if one of you guys were doing this, it would just drive me up a wall. I would get so. I wasn't a very good percussionist either, let me tell you. I could not, can't keep a beat, nor do I want to. Also, joking. That was that. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump so far ahead. Oh, here's another bit of that. Maybe you saw kind of in the corner, there was like a iPhone with a little headset. We made another little video within the space, and people could just like tune in, look at it, and do their thing. And I don't actually think this has sound. We'll skip it. Moving on to, does that all make sense as far as, I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but we all good to move on? Cool. Moving on to film. So the guy who did the film for Proxy Flesh also does the film. We have a collaboration. The first one we did was over COVID, titled These Bodies. And it's kind of this queer Adam and Eve love story that's happening at the end of the world, is how I think you would put it. He was really obsessed or really interested in this poem, a French poem about the end of the world and these two people getting on a boat as the world like drowns up in flames. Our collaboration is often about, again, I'm about the body, he's about falling in love with nature as we're killing it, right? That's kind of his motif. Yeah. So that was the end of that little short film. You know, the most of it is like very actually like nature sounds, ambient stuff. But we also had all these distant, like, might have sounded like storm clouds, might have sounded like missiles falling. The ambiguity of sound was something I was really trying to play with. And I think that's something that's really cool about sound is you can kind of take a sound and depending on what space you put it in, what context, what relationship to other things, it sort of changes what the sound is, right? You can have like a, you know, what's the sound of a screwdriver? But what's the sound of a drill? And what's the sound of a drill going through a skull or a drill going through wood? Or what's, you know, what kind of person is on that drill or manning that drill? With sound, you don't know, but you can also defer with sound. Does that make sense? I feel like I was starting to ramble again. Anywho. So that was our first piece. Second piece we did called Overture, which is coda to this last word, or to these bodies. Similar vibes. If you've read Mark Fisher, Capitalist Realism, this is kind of the vibe we were going for. And the switch up, with these bodies, it was all organic, natural sounds found in nature, something I took, recorded, and then processed. This one is almost entirely electronic. So it's just a synthesizer, it's a little Ableton plugin, and then it's just a bunch of actors we hired looking good, right? A lot of these too, I'll show you a little bit of what we'll play tonight, but for the most part, all of this was, the film was done and then I received the film and then made something out of it. I'm trying to get Matthew to go into more professional realm where we do like dailies and not dailies, but where, you know, maybe I get 2 minutes of a scene or a section and then I work with that scene. The last film we did was 20 minutes long and he just sent me a 20-minute chunk and that was too much time for me. Too much time to fill. That's good. So, you know, you can kind of see it here. Things are starting to pick up, getting nice. Everyone know Madeline Riddell? Madeline Riddell, everybody. Yeah. We're going to play the end just because I like the end. Cool. What y'all think? Thoughts? Say some words. Over here. Someone over here. Gnarly. What else? Maybe a little slow? What are you gonna say?
Are all your collaborations like freeform like that, where it's just like the director has like a kind of pre-established idea and you're just trying to like fulfill it, or is it like you're trying to add your own like, I guess, you know, sense of meaning to it?
That's a good question. Usually, what I would like is for them to have something
Yeah.
and then for them to tell me like what they want. But you've all talked to Don sound people, right? Like how frustrating it is it to like, give me a blue sound. Well, what does that mean? what I really want this part to sound like really, you know, dark and ominous and yada yada and glitchy or something. And it's like, you know, what I've learned to do is just sort of like, I know my niche, I know why they're coming to me, and I just need to like give them what they want. I'm very lucky to have this collaboration where we, you know, over time, we really just sync up. And those kind of friendships and those collaborations, I think, are really valuable for us. If you can get someone who maybe doesn't like everything you do, but can like, okay, cool, and then does something to add to what you're doing, that's always the best. Yeah, Madeline, Gail, who else have I mentioned? Margot, Aspen, the Bemis residents. Like, I help those guys all the time, and they help me out. Yeah. You.
Do you score to like the already made video, or do you write the whole song and then edit the video?
I score to the video.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I'm corporeal. I'm all about the body. So if I see like, everyone's familiar with Mickey Mousing, right? Where you go like, and then they get hit by a frying pan and makes the. Carl Spalding is the composer, if you don't know. But I'm a big fan of Mickey Mousing. I know it's not in vogue, but fuck it, I like it. And yeah. So I always compose visually with that. We're working on a feature length, our first feature length, and that one might be, I make a 90-minute like ambient track and then edit later. But yeah. Question for you?
How do you get your synth sounds?
So synth sounds, I can't quite show you because I just updated to Ableton 12. And I'm a little regretting it, not gonna lie, but I use mostly, I have an analog lab. I use, what else? Can you guys see that far away? Okay. Also, I don't know why I'm looking up here. Where is plugins? Oh, we're in plugins. Why is it so weird? I have the Isotope. No, it's called Isotope, the granular synth. I like that. It's okay. It's a little heavy. Analog Lab is nice. The problem I have with it is if I try performing with it, it eats up the CPU. And then there's, what are you doing, buddy? I have to quit. The one synth that I absolutely love is the Granular 2 and Granular 3 that are native to Ableton. Granular 2 used to be a Max for Live device, and I believe Granular 3 is now the native, like, when you download Ableton, it works just naturally with it. Getting all those B sounds, if you're familiar with granular synthesis, and then the cloud textures, you can expand on that. Tim Hecker was a big influence of mine, so definitely the Tim Hecker, I can't think of who the composer is, but the David Lynch Twin Peaks was definitely influence for that specific project. A lot of times it's just, do you have Ableton or do you have a DAW? Audio Pro X?
But I have used Ableton for past projects.
Okay, yeah. I say like, just pick a sound and then just try, it's like with a Maximus P, right? Like you don't try to invent a new instrument in Max. You take, maybe 3 instruments and then take what you like, and you Frankenstein this patch together. Anyone here does not know Max? Am I talking? Yeah?
Does not or does?
Does anyone does not know Max? Sorry. Good, okay, cool.
Speaking of Frankenstein and stuff together in Max, have you done that and like imported any of that stuff into Ableton so you can use it just like as a synth with an Ableton GUI?
Either like a Max for Live device or, yeah, I've done that. I used to be a lot bigger into, I used to be just Max, and then when I finally got Ableton, I was working on Max for Live patches. I used to have this own, and if no one knows, I'm sure Seth has already taught you, but you can open up the Max for Live patches, right? And then just edit it yourself. So what I ended up doing with the Granular 2 is kind of doing what you said, is I had I had the normal granular 2, and then I had my granular 2 that I had slowly like ripped it out and like, took out the plugs I didn't like and add the knobs I wanted. And did you fix that? Are you back? Cool. I'm just gonna pop up the analog if it works. Cool. So yeah, this is like maybe a little, not freeware, but definitely like, the step above freeware. But the nice thing is, it's like, if you just want like this sound, and I hope it's not this slow tonight, but that's the problem with computers. Second problem with computers, it doesn't take this long to play a violin. But you get the idea. Yeah. I'm not gonna wait for that. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Put that right there. Any other questions? Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk about, like your funding and where you're able to outsource grants and like that process.
Yeah.
Is everyone familiar with Ableton, or not Ableton, gosh. I'm now trying to not talk about tech stuff. Everyone familiar with Amplify Arts? It's a local music, or local arts nonprofit. Right now, I am a fellow for them with Alternate Currents. It is definitely more of a, finding equitable solutions, critiquing capitalism, imperialism, American exceptionalism. It's kind of, those topics are in the front, but they pay me to research that stuff in relation to sound, so, I get a little money there. What else is there? There's the Federal Emergency Grant Funds. I've tried to apply for those. Locally, it's a little tough. A lot of places, and this is speaking, largely with like COVID. And sorry to finish your question. New Music USA would be another big one.
What was it?
New Music USA. I think on their website it's NM USA. Seth, is that right?
I don't remember the URL, but yeah,
Okay.
Music USA.
Right now I know they just extended a call for scores for I think a small orchestra. I might be wrong on that, but they always have stuff. They have a young, what is it? We'll pull it up right now. They have a young film grant program, and it's not for white guys, is what I'm trying to say. I won't pull it up, but if you don't look like me, you should apply to that, especially if you're doing film. nmusa.org, I believe, is what it's called. So yeah. With funding, COVID really shut things down, and as the saying goes, the things that get cut first, it's the writing, right? If you're on a TV show, the writing gets cut first, and then the sound guy gets cut second. So looking at nonprofits, looking at things in like Chicago, there's still opportunities like ESS. They still have like calls for scores, they still have opportunities, but everything is getting tinier. So like the places that were like nationally or international in Chicago, now they're just local, or maybe like for the state. And that's kind of the biggest hiccup of living in Nebraska, living in Omaha. 5 years ago, there wasn't any funding if you were in Lincoln. Now you have, 3 places in Omaha that now go out to Lincoln, and you can get funding if you live in Lincoln. It helps to be in Omaha. There's cool opportunities and cool stuff. And I think the only other thing I would say is like get to know the international people around here. There's plenty of people who fly in, play a show, and then leave. And if you can get coffee with one of those guys, or just like hang out with them for a minute, like you can learn a bunch of stuff. And sometimes if they like you, they'll just be like, "Oh, hey, you should do this thing. Here, I'll apply. I'm on this jury. You should apply for this jury, and I'll make sure you get in." That's how a lot of this works. It's a lot of like who you know, not being an asshole. Really, that's most of it. You wouldn't believe how many people like I haven't worked with just because it's like, "Hey, what do you want?" They're like, "I want this, da 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 da," and it's like, "Sorry, dude." Okay, I'm gonna stop my rant there as far as like all of that. But any other questions? How are we on time? got like 10 minutes.
I have a big question. Just,
Yes.
as you know, several people in here are in tape ensemble and are working on this project this semester that's public facing, it's participatory with just like general audience, people that are going to be wandering a street event. And I think one of the struggles that a lot of us were talking through is like, sure, we can talk about the technology involved. We can even we have a lot of facility with making sound, but oftentimes when it comes to like developing a concept, or another way to say it is like developing something to say, it can be
Yeah.
a struggle. It's like, what do I want to say as an artist, Can you talk about what, I guess maybe things that you want to say specifically, and like how do you get to that point, and how would you encourage other people to like figure out what they want to say as an artist?
The big quote I got when I was younger was, there's always the sound and there's always the material, right? And those are when we talk about sound art, specifically like in a gallery context, those are the two things we're kind of talking about. It's what are you using to make the sound, and then what is the sound, and what's sort of if you want to think of narrative, what is the narrative between those? If your entire performance set is cooking utensils, what does that say about you? Like what are you doing with those sounds, and what are you generating? And to find those questions, deep listening journals, going for walks. I know that's not like the best answer. In a more technical sense, finding out the how, what, and why. Has everyone heard that as far as like writing goes? You have the what, the how, the why. If you can answer those three questions, that's always what I kind of like think back to, especially when writing like artist statements or exhibition stuff or grant proposals. It's what am I doing, how am I doing that, and then why do I feel so pulled to it? I feel pulled to the body because I, kind of have high blood pressure. I have misophonia. I feel sound very intensely here. I listen very well, but like everything is happening to me and my body, and extending to what I'm doing with the Deep Listening Fellowship, there's a lot of land back movement. There's a lot of critique on American exceptionalism. The Palestine issue, obviously, is a very big example of that. And thinking about how sound relates in those spaces. How does capitalism, when I'm walking down the street, what does capitalism sound like? To me, it sounds like a bunch of cars almost hitting me while I'm on this little, and that's the sound, that's the feeling, and that's like, in particular with those kind of pieces, is what I've been trying to push. Does that answer your question? Does that help? No? It's okay to tell me no. It's fine. I won't be mad. 5 minutes. You guys got 5 minutes with me. Yes.
Sorry, I'm not totally sure what my question is, but I think when I was listening to your pieces, I had a very visceral and kind of dreadful reaction to it, and I was curious if is that how you're feeling, or is that when you're listening to your own stuff, how do you feel when you're listening to it?
Definitely, that's, that core inspiration comes from my feelings. A lot of the stuff that we just watched is about how we feel about the earth dying, and seeing that as sort of a love story. And I mean, is it a positive love story? Is that narrative good? It's not. It's really fucked up. And so yeah, in the moment when I'm in the middle of creating, I definitely feel those emotions. And then I'm sure, everyone who's been in the studio, you get to hour 3 of editing, and all of that's just gone. But then that's where, again, it comes to talking to other people, asking them what they are hearing, what they listen to. Sounds very subjective. There's sounds that trigger me in a certain way and don't do anything to anybody else. You know what I mean?
Or soothe somebody else even. Yeah.
Or yeah, it's just you see a symbol or a representation of something, and it puts you in a state. Like sound does that tenfold, sometimes even more. Has anyone seen Zone of Interest? That would be 10 out of 10 would recommend watching that movie. It's very clear that the composer and sound designer for that film read Salome and probably went to school at University of London. And it's just about, I mean, it's about the Holocaust, but it's also about hearing things when you're not listening to what's, watch it and you'll get it. All about unsound.